you're listening to Big Blend Radio's Lost Angel Travel Adventures show with Linda Ballou, travel writer and author, and your host, Lisa Smith. So welcome, everyone. You know, we are getting to that time of year when it is time to get your holiday shopping done, and the sooner the better so that there's no drama. So Linda Ballou is back here, of course, and she has picked out some awesome gifts for the adventure junkie in your life. And of course, they're books. And that is such a great way to give a gift. They're easy to ship. You can even do them online. And even if you're last minute, that's something that can be done immediately. And I think these are so cool because it gets us out in nature. And during the holiday season, I say, even if it's chilly, depending on where you are, it's good to get outside and reconnect. And also, maybe these will add some inspiration for what you're going to do as adventures in 2026. So I love this assortment of books that you have, Linda. Do you read a lot as a writer? When you're writing, do you have to put other people's books down, or do you? Because some of them, you've got a great article and everyone, it's linked in the episode notes with these suggested books for gifts. It seems like some people are inspired by other writers that you also are inspired by. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, whenever people talk to me about writing, I say, well, read. You want to learn how to be a writer? Read other people's books. And my selection of books are travel narratives, which is what I love to read. I love those because they take me to a place that I probably can't get to any other way, or, maybe it inspires me to get to that place one way or another. But, I'm a travel writer, so I really enjoy, and I've read all the books that I'm mentioning to you in this selection personally. So, yeah, I'm
That's
ready.
awesome. That's exciting, I think, So let's go to the beginning here on your list. The Trail by Ethan Gallogly, and hopefully I said his last name
Yeah, I know
correctly.
his name is a little odd.
But hey, you know what? It's better than my last name of Smith. That gets a little boring at times.
Yeah,
But this is the John Muir Trail, right? So this is
right,
something connected
right.
to your adventures.
Right. So I have done horseback trips up into the John Muir Wilderness, which is just a wonderland. It is so beautiful. I personally can't hike the Pacific Crest Trail, and the route is generally from Yosemite, from Tuolumne
Mhm.
to Mount Whitney. And it's a very popular route, made especially popular by Cheryl Strayed with her book Wild, which was made into a movie by Reese. So this these people hiking the trail, it's an older man who's done the trail many times, and he cons his nephew into going with him because he's older and he doesn't want to hike it alone, is what he tells his nephew. So his nephew is about 35, and he's a little poncy, he's a little out of shape, he's been sitting at a computer
Uh-huh.
terminal, and he's not an outdoorsy guy. He's doing it as a favor to his uncle. So off they go. The uncle, the older gentleman, is very well experienced, and he knows the trail, and he's full of all sorts of information and historical tidbits about the trail, which makes it interesting. And the young man is going through a transformative experience, being introduced to nature in a way that he wouldn't have done otherwise. And sometimes he's grumbling, and sometimes he's uncomfortable, but he learns things. And you know, he comes to enjoy the solitude on the trail, and he starts to listen to his inner river, and he becomes more connected with nature. And the older gentleman keeps marching ahead, he keeps the pace, and this is a pretty strenuous trek. And he's got a shovel on the back of his pack, and it's swinging back and forth, they're gone for miles. They've been on the trail for days, and the nephew finally says, what's that shovel about? Why have you got that shovel? And he says, well, son, I meant to tell you, but I've got cancer, and I'm probably going to die in about 6 months. And if I die on the trail, I brought this shovel so you can bury me.
Gosh, that's hysterical. See,
Oh
my
my
mind
god.
went to the
So
to
yeah,
the
So the young guy is mad as hell. He says, "Well, I know that. I would have never gone with you." So and so, because he said, "I'm not burying anybody," like that. Anyway, it's fun. They both have a transformational journey, and I don't know spoilers. Please go there. It's a wonderful book.
Mm. This is very cool because also you read that and then you said that you also gave a nod to force of nature and
Oh,
that
right. Yeah, I
I
wanna
want to give a
mention it. Yeah, I
yeah, this
wanna
is women
mention that
hiking.
it's
Mm,
the same trail, only they're doing it in reverse. 3 women, 3 middle-aged women, who have, you know, worked hard to be fit enough for this hike.
mhm,
They're not, young deers with springy legs, they're middle-aged women, and, they start at Whitney and do the trail in reverse, going to Yosemite. So their interaction between one another is very fun and enjoyable, and I think, you ladies may prefer to read that book.
mhm,
It's the same territory. You know, really, find it very enjoyable. I mean, I
mm,
can't hike the Pacific Crest Trail. That is too much for me. Even though you can go down, you can hike segments, and there are stopping points where they pick up supplies and you ship your supplies ahead and you have them at these depots. So, I mean, reading either of these books, you will learn how to do this if you have any inclination to hike the Pacific Crest Trail.
it's
So there's
awesome.
that. It's educational.
I think it's to read these personal narratives to get your information then okay CD, like this is how you have to do it all.
Right.
It's kind of more fun because especially if you identify with the people in the story. And I thought this one I got excited about for you because I know how much you love rivers. You are a river rat. And this one
Oh,
is by Bridget
oh.
Crockett called River's Daughter.
Oh,
And I
The
thought,
River's Daughter. I just
yeah.
love this book. I love this book. I am a river rat. We did an episode, Confessions of a River Rat. And Bridget Crocker grew up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So she was a real outdoors young woman. She had outdoor skills. And, but her father was in Los Angeles and they had a very, very bitter divorce. And her childhood, which I'm not going to go into a lot, was difficult. Steve McQueen said he had the kind of childhood that would either make you strong or kill you. And that's pretty much what Bridget had. And
Mm,
she rises from the ashes of this dreadful marriage and abuse. And she she loves being outdoors and being on rivers because it requires all of her attention and focus, and it
mm,
takes her away from, the internal struggle that she is dealing with. So, but the first river, she gets involved with a man who is a river guide. Like the first river she does is the Zambezi, for God's sakes, which in Africa is
yeah.
that just below the Victoria Falls is, the second largest falls in the world. And the Zambezi is just, I don't know how many people die on the Zambezi, but I think a few do, for sure. And so she, at a young age, is rafting the Zambezi River, and she, is, as I say, it focuses her all of her energy and takes her, and she grows in this experience, particularly
Mhm,
being in Africa, because she talks about in this book about women in Africa, how they're treated as chattels and have no rights and things like that. And
mhm,
she was able to be in this society, be objective about it, and try to help in that particular society, problem there in Africa. But she then went on that trip. She was just helping, but then she
mhm,
goes on to become a guide herself. She rafts rivers all over the world. I mean, this woman is so brave and so strong. and the book is well written. I happen to know her, not I would say she's an acquaintance. I've met her at book events here down in Malibu. She
Oh,
lives in
okay.
Malibu, and so I have met her a couple of times and heard her readings, and it's taken her about 20 years to actually publish this book because the main thing for her was the reconciliation with her father.
Mm.
But for me, it was the wonderful adventure she took me on the rivers.
That's well, yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, Africa, and even the women of Africa, even though men ruled no matter what color, depending on what
Oh,
era, right?
right.
Women had their underground strength that nothing happened without the women being
The
involved. And
sisterhood.
yeah, it is. It's powerful. You do not mess with a woman in Africa. In Africa, you don't. And even like, I think people, even if you've moved there or lived there, there's this extra strength, and it comes from being in nature and there's a resiliency that comes from it, and the toughness that, I don't know how to explain it, but it's there. And going and doing what she did, going on the Zambezi, I mean, it's like you're going from what? You're talking she's in Malibu. Well, the Zambezi, you're going to be playing with hippos and crocodiles and
Right.
snakes.
But
You know, all,
yeah,
that's
no,
awesome.
she handles it. She's very young at the time, but she goes on, this book now, I think she's probably in her, mid-30s or 40. And the many articles and things about the book, people have they been um, a lot about her personal experience
Hmm.
there. But as I say, for me, being an adventure person, I would have loved to have joined her on a river. And she said
Yeah.
she still takes her little girls on river trips, and she's still a very outdoorsy person. Since she's, she just published this book a couple of months ago. She's getting a lot of play.
Mm.
And maybe I'm gonna talk to her and see if maybe she'd like to appear on our show
Yeah.
because
That's cool.
she's really an interesting and fun and dynamic woman. So yeah,
I think, well, she does kind of connect in a lot of the women that you've written about over the
right. She's a
years.
strong,
Even Bobo,
empowered.
is it Bobo that went in Hawaii that went swimming on her big treks? And I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. Well,
Isabella Bird,
Bridget is definitely one of those women I admire.
Is it Georgie
Yeah,
White? Yep.
that's right. The wildcat of the Grand Canyon, Georgie White.
Wow. All right. So the next one, see, we're going to be talking about Baboons for Lunch written
Oh,
by James Michael Dorsey. Now, I'm sorry, just leave off the baboons, but they'll mess with
well,
don't mess with them.
James Dorsey is a silver-haired gentleman. He's an elegant man, and he has taken upon himself in his lifetime to go to cultures that are going away, primitive cultures that are going
Yeah.
away, particularly in Africa, but not just Africa, other places too. He does rides on camels across the desert to get to the Blue Men and all of. I mean, he just gets
Wow.
really out there.
Papua New Guinea and all
Yeah.
those places.
Yes, and his poor little wife goes with him. Some of these stories, she's like bouncing down this hill. She's really she treks with him as much as possible. But his writing is fun. It's self-deprecating. It's informative. He talks at the Explorer Club here quite often
Oh,
about his adventures, and that group is really out there. I'm an adventure travel writer, but these people are like expeditions and going to places where no man has gone before.
I love stuff. I
Whereas
eat that stuff up.
I usually go with an outfitter. I mean, I don't.
Hmm.
So James is really cool. He and I did shared a at the Bank of Books here in Malibu. We shared an event, and he spoke, and it was really nice. He's really nice. But I want to mention that his latest book is called The Lagoon. All his life, he's been going down to Baja,
Hmm.
where the whales migrate every year, and they calve their calves, and he seems to have a one-on-one with the whales down there. I I don't need to get up and close and close and personal to the whales. They have bad breath, and I know that because I've been that close to them in Alaska. I mean, in fact, I was in Alaska. I was in icy straits, and whales do a bubble thing. They blow bubbles and form a circle, and they
Mhm.
capture the fish in this bubble net. And then when they've got the fish in there, they dive up in the center of it and they open their mouth and it's
Wow,
quite
that's
a scene.
amazing.
It's quite a scene when I got to see that. That
That's
was
amazing.
that's as close to Wales as I need to get. But anyway, The Lagoon
Cool.
is his most recent book, and he's very proud of that, and he gives talks about that.
I think, that's in the whales, how they go down there in the Sea of Cortez. It's just a magical
Right.
thing to see. And you get to see them on their way down and on their way back,
That like I
you
say,
know?
that's as close as I need to get to
Oh,
him. But people go out in these little Ponga boats and they kiss their nose, and I know their breath is very fishy.
well, yeah, Nancy got known for doing her after, working with Joy Adamson in the bush in Kenya. She would do a lot of speaking and she would explain how our senses from being out in the bush, and it's true, very rare can anybody just walk up behind us without us feeling them from way back. Our sense of hearing, our sense of everything is so on it from being out in the bush and when you're in the cities, that's where for me I get a little because of
Yeah.
so much noise and
I
everything.
have
Yeah.
I have the same problem. The noise
Yeah.
level of our society is way over
It's
the top for me.
But she got known for talking about being able to smell rhino pee. She goes, I can do it from this many miles away. And I remember we were at a grape stomp in the mountains in San Diego, and this woman comes up to Nancy, and we're in the grape stomp thing, drinking wine. And she goes up, You're the rhino pee lady.
Oh,
So now I'm going to call you the whale's breath.
dear. Well, as I say, I mean, it's actually quite a phenomena down there in Magellan Bay, I believe it's called.
Mm.
I did have a close encounter with a whale down there in Sea of Cortez, but I was on a kayaking trip. This is one of my earliest trips, and I went swimming, snorkeling, and I didn't see anything, and I came back up and complained. I said, "There's no fish around here. Why are you telling me to snorkel here?" And just as soon as I get out of the water, a whale literally breaches right in front of me. It was really
That's
hysterical.
cool, though. That's cool. I mean, but all those encounters to me are the best. Now, let's go. Endless Horizons. Paul Neville. This is, oh my gosh,
Okay.
talking about he went to Tonga, and Tonga is that's
Yeah,
another whale place. Yeah.
this is a really fun read, okay? If you didn't have the opportunity to take a gap year when you were a young person and, backpack all through Europe and around the globe, you can do it with Paul. You you can still do it.
That's cool.
And Paul is, he's in his 20s, but when he was like 20, he went to Tonga as a Peace Corps. And he was transformed in that experience of his 2 years in Tonga. Uh, at first, when he landed, he went, "Well, this is really boring. There's nothing happening here." But then he got engaged in the culture and he learned how to speak the language and he taught school there and he really got hooked on the idea of knowing other cultures.
Mm.
That became a very exciting uh, quest for him. So then he becomes a backpacker, and his goal is to be living on $15 a day. So you can imagine that it's a pretty, he's staying in hostels. There's all sorts of, it's no way, nothing I would ever want to do, But he shares with you the backpacker life, which, from his point of view is really fun because when you stay in hostels, you meet other
Hmm.
travelers and they share their story and you learn the next place to go and it becomes a continuum and it's like a network that goes all around the world.
Hmm.
So he meets fascinating people and he goes places that people you wouldn't normally go. So he starts out from Tonga over to Southeast Asia, and I really found that part really interesting, where he's an educated man, so he gives you history, he takes you to, Angkor Wat is a place that I wanted to go. I had a trip lined up to go to Southeast Asia, uh, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, but for health reasons, I had to cancel it, and I do hope I'm gonna be able to get to that part of the world before it's over. It's really a fascinating place, and Angkor Wat is the largest, temple in the world.
Mm.
You know, it's acres and acres, and he rented a motorbike to get around it, and, he gives you insights to, places that, are way off the, tourist trail. He does go to highlights, you know, but,
Yeah.
he definitely takes you into, regions that, there are no white people sort of thing, where
Mhm.
stands, head and shoulders above everybody there, and they're staring at him because he's white, he goes to
Mhm.
these kinds of villages and places. So, he writes with a lot of good humor, educational, fun, and, then goes up he joins his parents who also love to travel, and then they do Norway, and regions up there, Scotland, northern places, and I really, had no clue how wonderful Norway is. And how much I'd really like to go there now, as he
Yeah.
describes it, not just because the culture is, very mindful of its citizens. The government, they have safety nets, people are taken care of. It's, high taxes in exchange for a safety net, so that, but the scenery visually and how clean it is and how very special
Yeah.
it is. So Norway's a little country that I hadn't really wasn't on my radar, but now I really want to go there.
And it's doable. It's doable, right?
Yeah, it,
And I think sometimes what's so good about books like this is it allows you to just soak it in. You know what I mean? When you're reading it and you go there visually as you're reading,
right,
but you really want to now, like, I want to go take that step and it's inspiring. Whether or not you can get there, and if you can get there, he's really done his job, you know?
right.
It's
So
amazing.
so I think his book is really fun. He goes to Iceland, and everybody's going to Iceland these days. I mean,
Mhm.
and I'm being Alaska, I don't really feel the need to go there. I kind of feel like I've kind of seen that sort of thing. But so many people I know are going, wow, Iceland, you have to go there. And I went, well, from his descriptions, I thought, yes, it's a land of, wonders, but it's very expensive,
Right.
very expensive. So, it kinda cooled me off on that one.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's expensive but it is beautiful. It
Yeah,
is beautiful.
yeah.
So I wanted to go from his book. I mean, you're going to all these different places with him. The other one, I like this and I like the title a lot. Two Sticks, One Path. And again, this is
Uh,
the Pacific Crest Trail by
no,
Darrow Kirkpatrick.
not the Pacific Crest, that's why I put it on the list. There are many books about the Pacific Crest Trail. What this gentleman
Yeah,
did is
that's
the
right.
Colorado
Oh,
Trail.
see, that is cool.
Right, so it's 500 miles on the
Yeah,
Colorado Trail at about 10 to 12,000 feet most of the time. All right.
yeah.
So you are up in this alpine wilderness, this very ethereal beauty and, unmatched, spectacular, grand landscapes and wilderness. And he runs into a lot of wildlife on this
I
trail,
bet.
a lot of moose. And
Yay.
he is, it's a very, transformational kind of an experience for this gentleman who, in his early years, he was a rock climber, like in Yosemite and, doing those sorts of things. And he, was a mountain biker and extreme sport person. And now he's about 60-ish, and he's been engineer, software engineer for all his, earning years, and he decides he hates his work. He decides he hates what he's doing. He has a breakdown.
Aw,
So you go,
yeah.
you sort he reflects. It's not constantly talking about it, but it's part of why he has to hike this trail. And he's also not in the greatest shape. He has physical disabilities and his legs are not working quite right. But he finds these crutches where you have on your you hold them with your hands and it's
Mhm.
supported on your forearm. It's not like under your shoulder crutches. Two
Right.
sticks. So he decides that what he needs to do to get himself out of a rut is hike the Colorado Trail. He lives in Santa Fe, so he's already at 7,000 feet.
Mhm.
So the altitude adjustment is not so hard for him. But he has to do the trail in segments, which, a lot of people take one little, piece of the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail, and in this case, the Colorado Trail, and he does it, some of them by himself. He does some of it with friends who are,
Mhm.
add to the story, and, it takes him 6 years
Hey,
to do it, but he does it.
that's cool.
And he does it, and there are many times when he's on this trail that he's frightened, because sometimes he's out there by himself and he just has talk about traveling light. I mean, because isn't the strongest person in the world, he really carries a very minimalistic bag and has a little blanket that he uses to, and if you want to learn how to do it with carrying the least stuff and
That
surviving, but he fears, at night because it's, up at that altitude, he could easily die from hypothermia. So and he can't move fast. So when
yeah,
the sun is starting to slip down, if he hasn't reached his goal, his campsite where there's water, I mean, a big issue is water. Carrying water is heavy. So I mean, you're with him on a daily experience, very, very educational if you are the kind of person who wants to do this sort of thing.
mm,
Also educational about some of the environmental issues that are going on in the Colorado mountains, like the bark beetle, which is destroying the forest, which is due to global warming because it allows them to have two breeding seasons and blah 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 blah. So you have, and that's in Alaska too, by the way, and
in
also
California.
and everywhere. Yeah, the global warming thing has affected the forest. So there are swaths of forests that are gray because of that. And he doesn't preach about it, but he mentions environmental issues as he's going along.
That's awesome. That's something that it's such a hard line to do because you encounter it. Like I have files of litter, like files of photography of litter
uh,
in throughout the country. I've seen actual couches in the desert, washing
yeah,
machines in the desert, high
yeah,
heel shoes, a bag of shoes. It was a suitcase. What are we doing? And so
right.
and here I want people to go explore and enjoy the pristine side of nature and I'm having a hard time.
Well,
And so how do you balance that? So I love it when
people
that.
actually do dump furniture out here in the mountains. They think they're in some wilderness. I mean, the Santa Monica Mountains, the largest urban preserve
Mhm.
in the United States, which I mean, they think they could just go dump their couch out on the side
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
road. It's just unbelievably obnoxious.
So you do there's a way to do it, and so it sounds like he's really found that balance of seeing things, commenting on them. This is just the reality of what he's finding, you know?
It's good and it's written well. He had a lot of help, a lot of professional editing, and he's not a writer in life, but he certainly,
Mm.
got people to help him, beta readers and so on. And I think he did a really good job. James Dorsey is a writer, so, um, but these are travel memoirs, and they're not
I
always
love
well
those.
written, you know, some of them I can't read them. They're not well written, but I think this one's good.
Well, that's cool. Now, the next one is Wilderness. Who doesn't like that title by
Uh-huh,
Scott Stillman?
mhm,
And yeah, it sounds like you really enjoyed that as well
yeah.
because it is about being get outside, get outdoors.
Right. Well, you know, my theme song is that we can find solace in nature. And I have a story in I think it's Lost Angel Walkabout called Not Enough Said for Solitude. And this book is a solo journey without any outside stuff. Like, you know, in Two Sticks, he would go home and, you know,
Yeah.
he had a phone, he had a satellite phone and things like that. This guy is out there on his own, having a soulful connection with nature, beautifully written. It came out a couple of years ago. I would say it's the best one of the best books written about this sort of thing, you know, the need for us to disconnect, you know, to leave your phone at home and to listen to your inner river and allow things to digest, you know, all the
Mhm.
stimulus that we receive, you know, allow it to digest and come up in a creative way, taking time away from society. And I think it's invaluable time, I would say,
Mm.
to do that. Now, some people can't do that,
Yeah. It
just
it
can't.
but at least you get to do it through a book.
But, he takes me places where I couldn't physically go myself. Once again, I would love to do some of these hiking trips, but, I'm at a place in my life that is just not doable, you
Yeah.
know? So, I find great joy in being with the writers who capture it. And this man's writing is beautiful. Okay, so the others are good, but I would say his writing is really great.
Oh, that's
Mm,
awesome. I
yeah,
love finding new authors too that just make you go, "Man, that's" there's a craft to writing
absolutely.
and you have it. You have it. And this means we get to talk about you now. Lost Angel Unleashed Stories from the Heart is definitely one of my favorites of yours out of the Lost Angel series. And, because it is really getting to the nitty gritty part of how you connect your soul with all these different places. And, you've got so many great reviews from him. It's everyone you can go look on Amazon, but also go to lindablueauthor.com or lostangeladventures.com. All that, as always, are linked in the episode notes. But you've got some great reviews. One person wrote, "Grab your backpacks and buckle up, not bubble up." That's I'm feeling like we should have champagne out in nature, Linda. But fellow travel adventures, because Lost Angel Unleashed is about to take you on the journey of a lifetime. Linda's tales of wanderlust and wild escapades had me hooked from the get-go. From dodging grizzlies in Alaska to navigating the untamed rivers of Africa, this memoir is a roller coaster ride of adrenaline pumping adventures that will leave you breathless and craving more. And now we know that she also had, these experiences with whales with stinky breath. So yeah, can you read a little bit for us from there?
Yeah. Yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a reading from a story that's in the book called A Symphony in a Key of Green.
Ooh.
And it's set in New Zealand, which I just adore New Zealand. It's so it's just gorgeous, you know? So what I really wanted to do in New Zealand was a hut-to-hut trek.
Mm.
So I managed to connect with active New Zealand, and this is the top of the second day on the trek in the Nelson Lake region, okay? So after lunch, we crossed the river at the base of the waterfall and began the last climb. Water oozed through the rock crevices, so I stepped carefully in the footsteps of those who had gone before. The ascent became a steep hand over hand climb. My backpack threatened to pull me off balance. Looking down upon the growing chasm, I feared I'd taken on more than I could handle. Could my injured back withstand the rigors of this climb? If I became a cripple backpacking in New Zealand, there would be little sympathy for me at home. Lunacy is not held in great esteem where I come from. 13 miles into the hike, I was too weak to take one more step up or down. I looked around for Lutz and Kyle, who had apparently fallen into a hobbit hole. Easing onto the rock ledge, I sucked in the scintillating air and let my body go limp, using my backpack for an easy chair. The sun warmed the tension from my shoulders. The expression deliriously happy took on new meaning. I'd like to have stayed there forever, but I knew that when the sun slipped behind the lip of the summit, the temperature would plummet, and the frosty heavens, sparkling with a billion stars, would be no comfort, especially since my fleecies were tucked in Lutz's backpack. "Hello down there!" ricocheted off the rock walls surrounding me. Kyle suddenly appeared on the ledge above me. He and Lutz had taken a different route and were almost to the top. He bounded down the steep cliff face like a sure-footed mountain goat. "Would you like some help?" he asked with a broad grin. Extending a strong-muscled arm, he lifted me up onto the ledge where he stood. "How far is it?" I asked, afraid of the answer. "No worries, you're almost there." I relinquished my backpack to him and clambered up the last 100 yards to Angela's hut, which sits behind a glittering alpine lake in the hollow of a glacier cirque. My group, along with an international array of backpackers, was sprawled on a wooden deck, soaking up the last rays of the sun when I arrived. Kyle whipped up a pasta dish that made the trekkers eating from freeze-dried packets warmed-over Bunsen burners envious. It's an odd sensation to settle down for the night on a communal bunk with strangers, but at the end of a hiking day, everyone snugs down into their sleeping bags, leaving decorum behind. The cacophony of snores betrays no accent.
That.
Did you?
I do. I know that snoring sound too. It's
Well, New Zealand, was just the top of my list of places. I mean, it's just a huge big the South Island is just a huge big playground for adventure
yeah.
travelers. There's the people go to the Milford Sound, which is what most people know about, but the Nelson Lake region was absolutely gorgeous. This hike took everything I had, obviously, but it was so wonderful and no regrets. It was just from there. The first climb was very strenuous, but it was through gorgeous country. So I'm not, my problem is I am not the strongest person in the world, but I love to be
You
outdoors and
just
I,
keep
I
going. Yeah,
love
you
the,
gotta
I love those very wonderful special experiences.
well, you went tramping.
I did. I went hut to hut trekking in New Zealand.
I love it. Well, everyone, Lost Angel Unleashed, Stories from the Heart is out now. Again, lostangeladventures.com. And you can also go to lindaballou.author.com and go check out the article that she recommends all these different books that you heard about. It's linked in the episode notes. And Linda, can't wait for our next adventures next month. I know you're going to be taking us all around the world and getting us, adrenalized and inspired to get our butts out there traveling and go on an adventure next year. So thank you so much.
And it's so much fun, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Lost Angel Travel Adventure Show with Linda Ballou, travel writer and author. Keep up with her at lindaballou.author.com and lostangeladventures.com. You can also keep up with Big Blend Radio at bigblendradio.com. Now, happy traveling.